Okay, so hey friends and family. I hope this doesn't move too much. I'm sitting on my bed. Um, Me and Cherokee just got back a little bit ago. We did our first caucus today. Um, and basically, caucus is where your party gathers to vote on um, who they want to run for president out of the people that are vying for that position and to do that for the party. Um, and I have learned a lot the past few years since my daughter Cherokee took a strong interest in politics. Um, I have discovered that by not being a member of one of the two primary parties, being either a Republican or a Democrat, because I don't feel either party represents me, um, that I am being left out of a lot of decision making, not just as far as helping decide who might be running for president, but as well as, you know, voting on different legislation may or may not be available to you. Depending on where you live at, if you're not a member of either the Democratic or the Republican Party. Um, so even though I do not feel like either party represents me properly, to not get left out of the decision making entirely. Me and Cherokee are registered as Democrats. And so that we're not getting left out, and that we get a say in things that are having an effect on us directly. Um, it's kind of funny when there was so much that I probably should have been taught as part of my high school social studies that I didn't learn until Cherokee found out about it and told me about it, like primaries and caucuses, and things like that. And so we had the Democratic caucus today. We're in a rural area, so I wasn't expecting our precinct to be very big, um, and so there was early voting available, and I was expecting there to be more early votes and more voters for our precinct than there were. Um, my my guess on the lack of what appeared to be a lack of participation, at least for my precinct, is that either they they may most there may mostly be Republicans here. That is a very good possibility. The other thing is they just may not have felt like they needed to participate or that it mattered if they participated. They might not have been aware of what's going on. This is a rural area, um, and there's a lot of seniors here in my area. So a lot of them are not very tech savvy. I mean, I consider myself just a tad bit of a technophobe, but if you're a good 15 or so years older than I am, then you might be really out of the loop as far as technology is. Some people, no matter how old they are, they're always on top of it. But some people have trouble with that, or they feel they don't need to pay attention to that or be involved with that. I pay nearly all of my stuff via, online, except for one bill, my water bill. And I have to write a check for that every month and drop that off. So, and it's the only reason I have checks is because there's no other way to pay for it. Um, so it's either have checks or pay for a money order every month. Um, So, just pay for, get some checks from the bank. And it's like I said, about the only thing I ever write a check for is that. Um, Everything else is either direct withdrawal, or I take the sit down and ship it on out via this laptop right here, or my phone. So, but seeing as they have me write a check and there's no website or anything that you can go to, they're a little behind. And yeah, I don't think I've met her in person, but she's definitely a senior, and her husband has come to read the water meter, and he's a senior. And so so some of them having a lack of information access because they don't have computers, because, well, it's hard to get internet access out here. um, and it's not cheap either. It's expensive. There are a lot of retirees here, and I'm sure they, that $100 or so to have internet to the house, they probably use on medications. um I hate paying for it myself. Technically, I think for the most part, if there was a way for me to pay everything that I needed to pay, if I could just do it all at the bank, I would. But it's not all banks are set up to be able to do that. Take your payments for your different utilities and whatnot. Um, so so we did that, and I don't know if maybe the rainstorm, affected turnout, or if the fact that there was a detour could have messed some people up, and they were just like, screw it, I'm going home. Or it's raining and there's a detour. Oh, I gotta do better than this. So um, yeah, it's been so yeah, that was interesting. So for our precinct, there were 3 early voters, three early voters, and 3 people who showed up for the caucus for our precinct. Now the other precincts had, I think most of them had a bit more than us, and definitely one of them was fairly. Um, I'd say they had about 25 or so people in the one precinct that showed up today. Um, and that was a really, we just happened to be where we could kind of overhear some of what was going on for them, and that was kind of really funky, and the way the votes were splitting over there. Um, so, but our precinct is small, and nobody else except for me, Cherokee, and one other gentleman were there, and they needed a delegate, and I got to be it. The other gentleman he's like the substitute delegate. If something happens and I can't go to the county thing, then then it's supposed to be on him to show up. So, um, but yeah. I'm like trying to get by without trying to, just want to make my vote, and do, and kind of not be, because I got such a full stressful life. I'm not trying to add more responsibilities. But yeah, before I started making this recording, I had to hop online, and since I also ended up being the Bernie Sanders team captain for my precinct, because there was nobody else to do it. Had to hop online and just kind of report what happened at the caucus and what the numbers were, you know. So for my precinct, Bernie Sanders won, and you got to you think your vote doesn't count. It does. If you don't vote, you're that's when it doesn't count. You know, because you're just letting people drag you around by the nose if you don't get out there and participate. Um, and, you know, so, but yeah, but with only 6 people total voting, um, the one delegate, you know, for our area, I think, you know, could have went to just about anybody. You know, I was really kind of surprised that the gentleman that showed up today, he voted for Pete Buttigieg, um, and I just kind of thought like that was just like no. Yeah, so, but me and Cherokee were united. We're Bernie Bros through and through, and so you know, well, ain't nothing. Bernie Sanders. We're Bernie Sanders, and that's what we're doing. We're doing Bernie Sanders. Out of now I don't know who the early voters were, but there were only 3 of them. Um, one of those 3 voted for Bernie Sanders. One. And then the other 2 voted for Tom Steyer. Um, so if that one person had neglected to vote, you know, it could have made things difficult because there was 2 early voters who voted for Stiers and 2 who were present, me and my daughter, who were voting for Sanders. And you know, and so that one guy or gal who did the early vote and voted for Sanders made sure there wasn't any type of a tie. That one vote mattered. Um, so don't ever think your vote doesn't count. You know, even when people are being low down and dirty and cheating, it's good to be there. And of course, you know, I took some pictures so that it maybe tries to say, hey, you know, so and recording information and whatnot. And then there were a couple of other like Bernie volunteers that were there to make sure that everybody, you know, had the help that they needed. Um, so, but yeah, your vote matters. So you need to do it. It's not only just about it matters, but it's also your civic responsibility as a member of our society. It's, you know, and if you don't vote, then don't bitch about how things are. Don't say nothing. Don't complain. Because if you're not trying to make things better by exercising your right to vote, you know, it's entirely your fault that things are crap. Yeah, so, but I was things went really quick and easy for us because we had such a small group. Um, the one group, like I said, they were a bit larger, and so they were still going at it when we were done. You know, so I don't know how that turned out, but I know Bernard Sanders got won this delegate right here. So, um, but hope you're voting, hoping you're being involved, hoping you're educating yourself and being aware. Just don't go by those commercials. Actually look up people's records and check on them, because some people got some shady stuff going on in their past. And it's not like for instance, Pete Buttigieg, it's not that long ago. This is recent stuff that is shady that's gone on underneath him while he's been mayor. So, take the time to go to websites and look things up and find out who is truly representing you properly. So and for us, it's Bernie Sanders. So, and I'm rambled on a lot longer than I normally would. So, friends and family, we love you, we miss you, and get out there and do it. If you haven't voted yet and you still got time to do it, make sure you do it. Peace.